So Wharton chose Course Match because when we looked at the market for registration tools, there were basically two methods at that time. There were course auctions similar to what our MBAs used previously, and there were basic registration systems that used various allocation methods to think about which students receive preference for any given term. And so working with a number of PhDs and mathematicians, we came up with the algorithm to allocate courses based on students' preference. So students could go in and say, this is what I want to take, and this is my order of preference, and allocate that preference across multiple sections and multiple classes. And then we could run everybody's preferences through an algorithm that basically gave more students the courses that they wanted to take and increased their satisfaction in the outcomes more so than anything that was available on the market. With previous systems, we had students who weren't happy with the outcomes. They weren't happy with how much time they had to spend thinking about the process. They weren't happy with the perceived fairness or unfairness of the process. And so as we transitioned, there was definitely a learning curve in helping them understand the process, which was new. But at the end of the process, they definitely appreciated having more of the courses that they wanted than was even possible before. And rather than the inequities of having some students have everything they wanted and some students who didn't necessarily allocate their preferences or their bids correctly in the auction system, they were all now on an even playing field and really just pitting their preferences against each other and not their ability to understand a market solution. And so that satisfaction with those outcomes and their ability to just be in the classes that they wanted to be in, to have the credits that they needed to graduate, was a tremendous success out of the gate. So Wharton needed to change its registration processes because what we had was incredibly complicated. It wasn't seen as fair to all the students, and they struggled with registering for their classes. And it was fair, but it wasn't as fair as it could be. And so we really needed to think through a solution that would allocate courses efficiently with less work on our students and better outcomes for what they registered for. Wharton needed to change its course registration because what we had, although fairly efficient through a market system, was not always seen as fair and wasn't always easy for our students. And we really needed a system and a solution that was equitable to all of our students, was as little work as possible, but still maintained equitable outcomes for all of our students. When Wharton went to rethink the registration process, we were really looking for new ideas. We were looking to academic research, we were looking to economists, we were looking to mathematicians, and we really looked to the research world for the best and the brightest who could help us implement a solution that was both equitable and fair for our student population. And really bringing the best and the brightest together helped us deliver this solution that transformed the way that students were able to register for classes. So the decisions and processes to make sure that Course Match was a success really started for our student satisfaction. You know, they were all required to spend a lot of time thinking through the registration process, and that was time that they just didn't have. And so working with them to come up with a better process, help them understand the algorithms that would allocate the courses more fairly, give them the courses that they needed, and do it in a way that was easy for them to use, and working very closely with them to make sure that all those aspects were achieved was something that we worked diligently on through the entire process. Moving to Course Match was worth the risk, really just because the current process wasn't always seen as fair. It wasn't always equitable, and it was very complicated for students to use. And given the demands of our business degrees and programs, we really needed something that they could come in, register for courses, have a fair allocation, and move on with their academic career and not invest as much of their time and resources into how they registered. So Course Match came in, reduced the amount of time that our students needed to spend registering, and actually gave them better schedules. So it was absolutely worth the risk. The continuing benefit of running Course Match is really just continuing to delight our students with the outcomes that we're giving them with their course schedules. The ability to run it on a platform like Cognos has really helped us leverage the scale that we don't have at the school. It's helping us think through different problems and solutions that others are facing out in the education market. It's helping really bring the best of what Course Match can be and doing it in a way that continues to be more equitable, more fair, and easier for our students to approach. And now that we've tackled these large technical problems, that ability to scale has helped us deploy it in other areas for other registration solutions, whether it be for our undergraduate capstone or for leadership experiences. Having this solution be able to be implemented for these allocation processes has been a huge game changer for the school. So for other schools who are thinking about moving to course match, this really is a fundamental change in how you think about student registration. It's not a random allocation system. It's not an open market or an auction system. And having your students be able to understand how their classes are being allocated to them is incredibly important. In a lot of ways, course match can seem like a black box to those who are registering. And we really needed to make sure that everybody who was involved with this process understood the mechanics of what was happening, so they understood why the outcomes were more fair. They understood why they were getting what they wanted. And so Course Match actually implements many features that help students see the path from expressing their registrations to getting their schedules, and really exposing more and more of that information. Being transparent about the process is incredibly important to helping your students understand why they get what they get and being fully satisfied with it. So to other schools who are looking to manage the change of implementing something like Course Match, it's really all about transparency. The students need to understand what's going on. The faculty need to understand how the process works. Everybody needs to be on board with the fact that the algorithm is doing what it says it's going to do, and it's doing it in a way that's fair and equitable to everybody involved. And so just making sure that you continue to communicate that they all understand is really key to a successful implementation.